are going to be making a mushroom and potato chowder. It's going to be creamy and homey and comforting, and I'm going to be spontaneously making this recipe on the go. It's really, really easy. You're not going to need to measure anything or do anything fancy. We're just going to get to it. So right now I am heating about a tablespoon of olive oil in my pan. I have one onion chopped already into like a rough dice. My pan's not quite hot enough. I'm not hearing the sizzle, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to put these guys in there to get the... Oh, there we go. There's the sizzle that I'm looking for. So I'm going to get this saute started. And I have a bunch of mushrooms on here. So I have 2 packs of mushrooms. I have one... These are just the regular button mushrooms. And then I have another pack of oyster mushrooms. And to make... If you want to make like a really exciting mushroom chowder, the more variety of mushrooms, the better. This is just all my store had to happen to have. I probably would use another pack, do some fresh shiitakes as well. Dried mushrooms would be a really great addition. So 2 to 3 packs of mushrooms of a variety is what I would aim to do. So these little buttons are so cute. They're really tiny. So I'm basically just going to have them. Some of them that are a little bit bigger. Like this one's a little bit bigger here, so I'm going to quarter this guy. But I want, since it's a chowder, so I want the mushrooms to be chunky. The thing that I have in mind as I'm creating this is like a clam chowder, where you have these really succulent chunks of mushroomy goodness. So if I cut them too small, they're basically gonna, I don't know, just disintegrate. They're not gonna have that really nice toothsomeness. So I'm gonna achieve that by basically having the really little ones and quartering the mushrooms that are slightly bigger. And it's going to take a little bit of time just because I think in an ideal situation, I would not be working with these teeny tiny little baby mushrooms. But when you order grocery delivery, you don't really have control over those things. So I got what they give me, which also meant I did not get shiitake mushrooms or dried mushrooms, both of which I really wanted. Dried mushrooms are cool. To use them, you basically just rehydrate them in hot water for 10 minutes or so, and chop them really small. They definitely have a much firmer, chewier texture than normal fresh mushrooms, but a little bit goes a long way. They add a ton of flavor and just textural interest, so I think that would definitely be a 10 out of 10 addition here. So I'm just going to finish chopping my mushrooms, and then I'm going to check on my onions. Alright, so I have all these, the first pack of mushrooms chopped, so I'm going to add them to the onions, which are just starting to go translucent. I'm going to let these saute together. Sauteing the mushrooms is going to be the longest step, because I want them to get nice and dark, and I want them to shrink down a little bit, because that's going to bring out their best flavor. So once the mushrooms are sauteed, after about 10 minutes, it's basically an issue of adding the rest of the ingredients and letting it boil as one does with soup. Alright, so I've got my oyster mushrooms chopped, and I'm gonna chop the stems a little bit so that they're not in huge pieces. But I'm gonna leave the flappy parts of the oyster mushrooms in pretty large chunks, because these really shrink down when they cook. They're pretty high water content. So I like to leave a lot of these pieces pretty whole, except for the stems, making them a little smaller and easier to chew. But yeah, these will really, really diminish in the pan. Alright, I'm just adding them here. And basically at this point, I'm just going to let them do their thing. I'm cooking it at a medium-high heat, just because I want to get a brown going on these pretty fast. What I'm probably going to do towards the end of their cooking time, just to add a little bit more savory flavor, is I'm going to do a splash of tamari. I really like doing that with mushrooms in general, because I feel like it helps each individual bite get some extra flavor. You can also do a sprinkle of salt, but I like the dark, rich flavor that tamari gives you. So I have a few relatively small pieces of celery here. I'm going to cut them lengthwise into, I don't know, about half-inch strips. And then I'm going to just create kind of a thick dice of celery. And the celery and the potato, I'm going to create a similar, the potato pieces are going to be a little bit bigger, but I'm not going to add those until the mushrooms are done and until I add the vegetable broth. So I'm just prepping these to get them ready and then setting them aside. So that's about a scant cup or so. So about a cup of celery is what I'm aiming for. Just giving these potatoes a rinse. I think the best kind of potato for this recipe would be a gold one. The ones I happen to have are white potatoes. So these are pretty small. I usually get more potatoes than I think I need because green potatoes hit the garbage immediately. So I always like to leave a little bit of leeway in case one of them is green. I do not want acrylamide in my diet. So I want you to take a look at these mushrooms here. They're starting to reduce. There's quite a bit of water being released from them right now. So I'm gonna let them go a good another 5 minutes, just because since all the water is being released, they don't have the ability to brown yet. That's only gonna happen once some of the water burns off. So this potato does not look green. That's nice. I'm gonna just round off the edge so that it has like a flat surface to stand. And yeah, I'm basically just cutting slabs, about equal sized slabs of potatoes. It doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, basically the thing you want to avoid when you're chopping potatoes is having the potatoes 95% cooked, but then one of them is crunchy. Because you guys, I don't think there's anything. Well, there's a lot of things. I'm so overdramatic. Many things worse in life than crunchy potatoes, but culinarily there are a few things that's up there. Crunchy potatoes are the worst. They're disgusting. They are just terrible. But your dice doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm going for about 1-inch pieces here. Some of them are going to be a little bit smaller, some of them a little bit bigger, but we're going to have the soup cooking for a good 15 minutes anyway. Enough time to basically have them all so they're all like very, very, very soft. So we don't have to worry about the risk of a crunchy potato. Ew, some of these this is a golden one, so it looks like they gave me some random yellow ones, some random white ones. Cool. I like the element of surprise when you do grocery delivery orders. What your shopper is going to choose for you, and what your shopper is going to substitute for you. Lots of fun. Okay, this potato looks just a little bit green to me. I'm probably being paranoid. I am super paranoid of acrylamide. So I think I'm just going to let that potato go. Looks like I have about 2 cups of chopped potatoes, which I think is fine. Anyway, I'm going to check on my mushrooms. Ah, good. So most of the liquid has cooked off. So you can definitely see, I'll show you here, that they are starting to get like this really nice brown color. A couple more minutes before I add the broth and everything else. Okay, I think we're going to do it, guys. Looking really nice. I didn't even add soy sauce to this. I was just, you know what? I might add a sprinkle of salt and let that cook in the mushroom for a minute while I prepare everything else. But these are really nice and gorgeous. I don't even think it's going to need the tamari. So, I usually do, whenever I make soup, I usually plan to use about 4 cups of liquid. I might use just a little under because I'm still going to be planning on adding some cream at the very end, some vegan cream, which I'll show you how I'm going to pull that together. But I'm just doing about 3.5 cups to start. I'll get the rest of the ingredients in, like the potatoes and celery. There we go. And some thyme, probably about a teaspoon. You could use fresh herbs, would be absolutely wonderful in this as well. And some vegetable broth. I'm just going to do a spoon. This is about a tablespoon. About a tablespoon of broth. I'll adjust, I'll taste for flavor at the end. I always like to start a little on the scant side, and then I can always add more sodium if need be. But I'd rather add too little salt than too much for perhaps obvious health reasons. Alright, so my next step is going to be to let this come to a boil and then simmer until the potatoes are really, really tender, so 15 or 20 minutes. So I'll come back and check in with you then. Alright, so my soup has been boiling for about 15 minutes. So what I've got here in my little NutriBullet is half a cup of nuts. Now, I would have preferred this to be cashews, but I used what I got. So I have sunflower seeds and macadamia nuts in here, about a 1/4 cup of each. And I'm going to grind this dry. This is how I'm going to make a really nice cream for the soup. So here we go. All right, let's have a look. That was half a cup with, oh yeah, that looks great. So I'll come show you what this looks like so you can get a sense of the texture here. It's thick-ish, so half a cup to half a cup. And this is just gonna add a really nice richness to our chowder. And there's one other thing I'm gonna do to the chowder to make it creamier too, and I'll show you that in a minute. All right, I'm going to test these potatoes for doneness to make sure they're soft. If not, I'll just let it go a little longer. Let's see. This potato is pretty creamy. I'd say that's about right. I'm just gonna stab a couple more to make sure, because I did have 2 different types of potatoes, but I think we're looking good. So then I can move on to next steps. Okay, I think we're looking good. So there's 2 things that I'm gonna do to make this chowder chowdery. The first one is I'm gonna take a potato masher, and I'm gonna get in there and just break up the potatoes a little bit. The reason I'm gonna do a potato masher and I'm not gonna do any blending or food processing is because I don't want the mushrooms and stuff to get blended, which is what would happen. I want all the mushroom chunks to remain, but I want some of the starches and the potato pieces to, like, I just want some of the starches to get released from the potatoes. So by doing this, what's really happening is only the potatoes are getting mushed up a little bit, which is going to make the texture of the broth thicker and just overall nicer and better. Add the cream and the parsley. This is where it transforms from just like a, you know, mediocre brothy soup to something that's just gorgeous. Just gorgeous. Okay, I gotta get the parsley in there too. I really like fresh herbs in a soup like this, not only for flavor, but it looks really nice too, because you have those fresh green flecks throughout the whole thing. So I'm just gonna show. I want a soup that tastes like hummus or has the texture of hummus. So we're gonna work with this, have a taste, and I think that's gonna pretty much be the recipe. Let's see, guys. I think I could use a little bit more salt, a little bit more vegetable broth, but I am gonna just put it to the side before I finish everything off once and for all. I'll plate it though, so you can see what it looks like up close and personal. Now, depending on your own, how you feel about this, I'm not a big fan of adding lemon or something like a little bright to my cream soups. I feel like it just makes it taste like curdled or something, but I know a lot of people really like that, like potato lemon soup and stuff like that. So that would be something you could add to the bowl. I'm probably just gonna add something spicy and maybe a little bit more salt. All right, so you can see here, it's like a nice creamy, but still fairly like thin texture. Like I said, it's not like a hummus soup, but it's got a lot of like contrasting textures. You got the different mushrooms, celery. There's some like chunks of cream and potatoes. So this is gonna be a really great winter soup. Yeah, let me know if you give it a try. This is one that I like to keep in my repertoire, especially over the winter, and I will catch you guys in the next video.